So next up, we move on to our second type of loop, the while loop. So a while loop is actually much simpler than a for loop to understand. There's just one piece of syntax, while, and then inside of parentheses, a single condition. And as long as that condition is true, whatever it is, if it evaluates to true, your loop will continue to run. If this ever evaluates to false, the loop is done. So this is a simple example, basically recreating what we've already done with a for loop, printing numbers from 0 to 10. So let's try that out. I'm in a new file once again, just to keep things separate. We have our for loops video, or files, and then while loops here. And I've got an app.js. Let's loop starting at 0. So we could do I, we could do count equals 0, and then while count is greater than, or let's go less than 10, and then my curly braces. And whatever code goes in here will be run each time through the loop. But with while loops, it's very easy to make an infinite loop if you're not paying attention, because count is 0, count less than 10, that's always going to be true, and there's no part of the syntax where I actually add or subtract or alter count in any way in the loop statement. Instead, I do that down in the body here between the curly braces. So I need to make sure I'm doing something like count plus equals 1 or count plus plus. I do that separately. So let's do a console.log count and just see what we get. Okay, so there's 0 through 9. And that just happens because of where I'm console.logging. I'm incrementing count after I print, so I could do it the other way around. And now we should end up with 1 through 10, just like that. So this is just another form of what we've already done, right? The equivalent here is for, and I'll use I, let I equals 0 or 1, I less than 10 or less than or equal to 10, I plus plus. It's the same idea. We have some initial value. While some part is true, some condition is true, do this and add 1 to I, or to count. So this is not where most people use a while loop. I mean, you can, but generally for loops are preferred for things like this, where we have a set number of iterations. It's always 0 to 10. Or if we have an array, whatever the length of that array is, we're always going to iterate n times. If the array is 20 items or 1,000 items, that is kind of set in stone. Where a while loop is more useful, in my opinion, is when we have something that is truly variable. We may not know how many times it iterates, and that could involve user input. That could be something like a game loop, where we have a board game like the chess or checkers. We want to continue looping as long as nobody has won the game. So we could write something like while, and then, game is not over, or game over is not true. And then in here we would have, player 1 move, and then player 2 move. And then after this loop, we would have something like congrats, because if you made it to this point, somebody won the game. So game loops are very common, and it's very hard to know. It's impossible to know how many times you'll need to iterate for a game of chess or checkers. It could be very, very quick if somebody is really smart, playing against somebody who's never played before, or it could take a very long time. And we're not setting any sort of defined number of iterations. So I'll show you a simple example of this sort of while loop. Why don't we ask a user to enter a password? So our secret code, let's just make our secret code here, const secret code, I'll just do secret, is going to be, how about baby hippo, one word, camel case like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is have a while loop where I ask you to enter, or I ask a user to enter the secret code. And as long as you don't get it right, as long as it's not a match, I'm just going to keep asking you over and over and over. So I'm going to come up with a variable. Let's just go with guess equal prompt, enter the secret code. Okay? And then while your guess is not equal to secret, I'm just going to say guess is equal to the exact same thing, prompt, enter the secret code. And that's going to happen over and over and over until you get it exactly right. Because at that point, this line inside of the parentheses will evaluate to false and our loop will be done. So if I put something else down here like congrats, Congrats, you got the secret. That's only going to run after this loop finishes, and that means it's only going to run after you enter baby hippo correctly. So let's see what happens. Enter the secret code. I'll enter something wrong. Nope, enter the secret code. Okay, how about baby? No, now I'll enter it correctly. We are not ignoring case, so I have to match it exactly. Baby hippo. Congrats, you got the secret. So a while loop works here because I don't know how many times this could take. It could be the first try, or somebody might never get it, and we're just going on and on and on and on, hundreds or thousands or more different times. So there's not a set number of iterations, and this is where a while loop really shines. It's just easier to make a loop like this that runs an unknown number of times using a while loop. It's nice and short here. While guess is not equal to secret. So while the guess is wrong, get a new guess. And we could print something out if we wanted to, but I don't think we need to do that. We'll just keep it simple like I have right here. In the next video, I'll show you another example of this sort of loop where it's not really a game loop, but it's kind of the same idea. While you have not won the game, while you have not guessed correctly, that sort of thing, continue this loop. So that's coming up.